Welcome back to the video, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of my passions. It's these things, cigars. Now, if you're not a cigar fan, if you're not into this, then I totally understand that. But my hope is that what I want to really communicate to you is it's all about relaxation. It's all about headspace. That's where cigars have their place for me. Hi friends, it's me, Brendan, and I talk about all things watches and fragrances and sometimes other things like I've got in this box today. If you like that kind of content, then definitely subscribe to the video and hit the bell icon, and then I will keep you posted whenever I release a new video. And I come to you today from the terrace here, and it's a bit of an overcast day, so not necessarily the best day to smoke a cigar, but we're going to talk about that kind of stuff anyway, so stay tuned. So a couple of things before we begin. Fragrance today to complement this video, Roger Apex. Absolutely epic green masculine fragrance, but not in a way that's too much. Just a super classy, natural, earthy fragrance. Definitely give this one a go. And the second thing is the Rolex GMT Master Pepsi. I am loving this watch. Faded bezel, around about the year 2000. Just can't get enough of this watch. Super classy. So what is this cigar thing all about then, right? It seems to have caught fire a little bit, excuse the pun. And my background with cigars, well, it's not a particularly extensive one. My friends and I, when we were teenagers, used to go out into the streets of Leeds, into the pubs and the clubs of Leeds, and we thought we were it, and we'd take a cigar, a Hamlet with us. And I distinctly remember going out in a purple silk shirt with pinstripe trousers, buckled shoes and a Hamlet in the pocket. And these were the days when you could smoke inside, and we would light up these cigars and we'd think we were the boys, basically. How wrong we were. We probably repelled the opposite sex. We probably looked utterly ridiculous. But anyway, through lockdown, my friends and I decided to get back together. We started to play poker, which we used to do in the olden days. We used to chuck in 5 or 10 quid in 20p's in the olden days, and the winner takes all and then buys the drink, and then we'd go out. And so what we did was we got together for poker in the lockdown in the UK, way before, it seems like a lifetime ago, way before I moved out here to Spain. And we were just like, somebody suggested, hey, should we get some cigars for old time's sake? So I ended up looking on a number of different websites and bringing in a box from, it was Switzerland, from Simply Cigars or something like that, I think it was. And it was a box of Partagas Special. And basically, we went through this box like there was no tomorrow, like they were going out of fashion, having no idea that we'd actually bought a lovely cigar. And then we got into other things like, I'll share in a second, but Hoyo de Monterrey Epicure number 2. I remember smoking 3 of them in one night with Domino's pizza. So not civilized, not what it's all about at all. But since then, the 3 of us, this small group of friends and I, have started to just enjoy this hobby of cigars. As friends meet for a coffee when I go back to the UK and have a lunch and a cigar and a coffee. And it's become a really nice ritual for us, a nice habit for us. So what I'd like to do in this video is share my experiences of cigars first and foremost, and then offer you maybe a starting point or just a little bit of knowledge, as well as I've got not a ton of it, but a little bit of experience on this. So let's get into the video. So first and foremost, the thing I'm tapping on here is a humidor, and it's where I keep the cigars that I have. And you have to humidify the cigars so they kind of perform well and keep their condition, because ultimately they are a dynamic object. They've got to be kept well. It's easy to do. You buy something called a Boveda pack and you just put it inside, and it keeps the humidity inside really nicely. And this cigar is where it all began for me, the Partagas Special, Super Partagas I believe it's called, and it's around about a 42 ring gauge. That's the circumference of the cigar, and it's actually a strong cigar. It's stronger than I would recommend for a kind of newbie, so to speak. We didn't have any idea when I first started, but I've since learned Partagas is one of the stronger brands in the Cuban portfolio. and that's the Habanos brand of Cuban cigars. And you can get cigars from all over the world. Dominican Republic, Davidoff cigars are from there, Nicaragua, Honduras, and I believe they even make them closer to home now. But the original is Cuba, of course. It's still a big industry for the Cubans. This is where it all began with this particular cigar. And what you have on the cigar is an outer leaf, and then a wrapper, and a filler inside. And obviously the thicker the cigar, so if I take this one, you can see that's slightly thicker. This is the Juan Lopez, and similar length but thicker. This one will take longer to smoke than this one because there's more filler inside. So what you want as a beginner really is just a fairly light cigar that you can maybe have after a meal, or even at a lunchtime, or in an evening if you want, that isn't going to knock you out, because if you go too strong too soon, you're going to really struggle. So one I would recommend is this one. It's called a Rafael Gonzalez Perla. It's, in contrast to this, it's a lot smaller as a format and is a really lovely cigar. It takes about 30-40 minutes to smoke. If you take your time, you can have it with a coffee. And I just want to stress as well, when you're smoking cigars, for me, it is about relaxation. It's about having a space and having a time where you can sit down in your own company and smoke. And you don't need a cigar for that, but it definitely catalyzes it. It certainly does for me anyway. And a lot of people smoke together, smoke in company. So friends having a cigar on a night out, that kind of thing. That's great as well. But for me, I find it a great way to sort of force me to relax, because when I do that cigar time, when I commit to that time, it makes me take an hour to 2 hours out of my weekend to go and have a nice cigar. So a really important consideration here. Now, and I'm not going to try and argue with you about the health benefits or the health negatives, but I do think committing to some thinking time, committing to some space and peace is actually really good for your mental health, for sure. So definitely don't underestimate the value of that. Another brand that I would really recommend for you or for a beginner is Hoyo de Monterrey, and they do a number of great cigars. Everybody talks about the Epicure number 2. This is actually the Epicure number 1, and I prefer it. It's a longer format cigar. It's similar to the Juan Lopez and slimmer than the Partagas. And obviously different to the Perla, and a little bit higher price point, and to a degree you're probably paying for the brand a little bit, I think, with Hoyo, but definitely a great smoke for sure, and one that probably takes 60 minutes, maybe 80 for a beginner on this, and I would put myself, I'd take a long time with my cigars, deliberately. I might stop and have a break in the middle and do something else, but for sure this probably take me 90 minutes, whereas some people, my friend in one of my old friends in the group that I mentioned, he'd probably be through this in 45 minutes for sure. And the last one I want to mention is this one. It's a Magnum 46 from Upmann, a really reputable Cuban brand. This is actually my favorite brand, I think. So two brands there that I really recommend for beginners. One is Hoyo de Monterrey, and the other is Upmann, and the Magnum 46, or the 50 if you like a big cigar, and the Epicure number 1 or 2 are really good beginner smokes. And if you want something a little bit smaller, go for something like the Rafael Gonzalez Perla. I do think the Partagas is a bit strong to begin, and the Juan Lopez sort of sits in the middle for me anyway. I think people say this is a stronger cigar, but for me, it doesn't feel as strong, so to speak. So a couple of things to consider with your cigars. The first one we talked about is the storage. You don't have to have a humidor like this, but a place you can get a bag that keeps standard level of humidity. And then the second thing is these things, cutting and lighting the cigar. So this cutter doubles as a cigar stand, so you can put your cigar on it and rest it and do all that kind of stuff. My wife actually bought me this for my 40th birthday about a year ago right now, and she bought me an accompanying lighter as well, another St. DuPont lighter. These are quite expensive but not completely unobtainable. They're good gifts for you, for yourself or from somebody else. And then this lighter is another St. DuPont lighter, and it's a jet flame lighter. Beautiful, beautiful lacquered finish on it, and you click it and it fires up the cigar like that. Because if you're outdoors, especially in a country like the UK, you can't just use a flame, you need a jet flame like this to make it work. The UK right now is booming when it comes to cigars. Loads of lounges across the country, not just in London. When you go to London, most of the major hotels have got a nice cigar lounge, and they will serve you a cigar and you buy a cigar from inside there. They're expensive though, for sure. I remember going into the Sahakian Cigar Lounge in Knightsbridge and ordered a cigar, and I think I paid about 50 or 60 pounds for this cigar. And then the person next to me ordered a £300 cigar, and the person next to them ordered something like a £700 cigar. It's a little bit intimidating, but it is for everybody. You can pay 10, 15, 20 pounds for a cigar, for sure. It's not a hobby that excludes everyone, but of course, like anything, you can go all the way up to the top of the tree and get vintage cigars and exclusive limited cigars and pay lots and lots of money for it. I don't pay anything like that. I don't think my palate is advanced enough to even know that. The same with something like wine. It's not going to work for me. I mean, I don't even drink alcohol, but yeah. So cutting a cigar and lighting a cigar, there's a bit of a ritual for those, or a process to follow for those. So maybe that's a subject for another video. If you would like to cover that, if you'd like me to cover that on another video, then definitely leave a comment with, can you cover that, or something like that. Give me some feedback on that one. So that's that. And some great advice that I heard from the Sahakian family that run the Davidoff London shop. Very, very pleased to have met both of those guys whilst I've been traveling around. Some great advice they gave was smoke less, but smoke the best. And I think that's the thing with cigars. When you spend a little bit of money, not tons of money, on a good cigar like this Juan Lopez, for example, you're getting a handmade product with no toxins, no extra preservatives or anything like that. A completely handmade item that somebody has cared for. Now, they say that over 300 pairs of hands have contact with this cigar before you do, which is incredible, isn't it? But when you think about the process of hand picking and nurturing those leaves and then creating the product and then getting it ready to ship and sending it around and so on and so forth, it's completely plausible. But I think the main thing for me is it is a natural, untouched product that is curated and developed for your enjoyment. So spend a little bit to get something at that level, is what I'm saying here. And for me, I try to smoke 1 or 2 cigars over a weekend. So I don't really do anything Monday to Friday, and then maybe Friday night after I've finished work, I'll have a cigar, and then sometime over the weekend, I'll take a couple of hours to go and have a walk and a cigar, or go and sit out on my terrace here and have a cigar, or go to a nice place. I have a lovely spot in a local town nearby, and there's literally a bench that I love to sit on and have a smoke on that bench. The bench of contemplation, you might call it. And so yeah, like, take the time and force yourself to carve that time out, and it lets you slow down and just think about your thoughts a little bit more. Think about what you want, think about where you want to take your life, the gratitude for all the things that you have in your life, all that kind of stuff. I think that's brilliant part of the cigar hobby, is it forces you to reflect and think about where you've come and where you'd like to go. So that about rounds things up for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a new thing for me, relatively new, or certainly born again from when I was a teenager and didn't have a clue what I was doing with cigars, and now I've learned. And like anything, when you learn about a hobby, you realize there's more for you to learn, and you've got more questions than answers. So I'm on this journey as well, and it's been a really rewarding one so far. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. In the next few weeks, I've got content on more fragrances stuff, more watch stuff. I'll have some info on my trip to Milan and some sightseeing there as well. And in the next few months, I've got a ton more planned. So definitely subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Give us a comment with your feedback. And I look forward to seeing you again on another video very, very soon. Thanks again.